Gotham Chopra. Gotham, thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
I got to start by asking you, Tom Brady is not exactly the accessible athlete, the guy that you're like, hey, can I follow you around for like a couple months just with cameras in your face in your home? How did you get Tom to agree to do this?
I mean, I've been friends with him for a couple of years, and, you know, I'd say over that time, maybe 5 years, I've been telling him, because what he's been doing for the last 5 years has been pretty historic anyway.
Remarkable.
I kept on telling him, hey, man, I think we should, you know, I've done this before with other athletes like Kobe, et cetera. And Tom very politely would always sort of say no, you know. But then this past year, about a year ago from now, after I think the prior season, which was pretty historic, you know, from the
comeback.
The comeback,
yes.
But the suspension, the off-the-field stuff he was dealing with his mom. I think Tom sort of sensed maybe I should have been capturing that.
Yeah.
And then there was this whole, he's turning 40, nobody thinks he could do it. And, you know, these guys always have to find their edge. They have to find that conviction. And I think last season, or last off-season, it was, okay, you don't think I can do it at 40? Let me show you how.
It's funny you say he's turning 40, people don't think he can do it. In one of the episodes, one of those talking head sound bites of people doubting Tom Brady was yours truly, and I was proven a fool on that. But I'm curious about, just quickly here on this part of it, did Tom Brady did he have final cut? Like, did he get to see could he edit things at the end?
I mean, yes, he was a sort of a participant. We were collaborators on this thing, but we did all the posts during the season, and I can tell you, Tom's pretty focused on football. I had a pretty good instinct, you know.
The reason I ask is because I found what we just played there, basically the close of the series, unbelievable. I thought it was jarring because I looked at it as the premise, Tom versus time, and tell me if I'm getting this right. The premise of it was Tom's going up against an undefeated opponent that he thinks he can defeat. Like, he's talking about wanting to play till he's 45 throughout the series. And then the series closes to me saying, man, time might be winning when he's questioning whether or not how long he wants to keep going with this. Was I reading that properly, and how did you react to what you heard Tom say that you chose to close the series on?
We should absolutely have you in the writer's room. Yes, this is, I mean, yeah, you're definitely barking up the right tree. I mean, I think at the end of the season, it was a really trying season, and I think it's been a trying 2 seasons for him, and so I think that was the culmination, and I was kind of surprised. I mean, I, again, have been around Tom. There was a version that I thought was going to be much more predictable, where he talked about his off-season training and just getting back into the routine, turning the page, and that was a little bit, I mean, it's subtle, but that idea that I need to spend some time this off-season figuring out what I really want to do and where I'm going to get that motivation, because as you know, it's not just physical, it's mental and it's emotional to try to do.
Now, I didn't read that. To me, it seemed like a great player who I have to go in this hole for 8 months, 6 to 8 months, a year, and now I realize that regardless of winning and losing, I'm sharing this life with the very people who I deem to be very important. That's his wife and his children. I think that football is his safe haven. There is nowhere else that Tom Brady can act the way he does. There's no way that he can get the credibility and that what a man wants in life without being on the football field. The first thing I have to do is thank you for pushing Tom. Because for me, for all the young kids out there who think it's easy, Tom is doing it the right way. And without you and without this documentary, we wouldn't be able to see that. So first, I have to thank you. The footage of the AFC Championship game, it showed me the essence of being a football player. How shocked were you that it happened, and how shocked were you to see through this process the overall results of what happened in the AFC Championship game?
I mean, I was sitting up in the family suite with the family, and in the first, I'd say even in the third quarter, I was like, what are we going to do? You know? And I mean, I've been a Patriots fan. I grew up in Massachusetts. I've been part of, like, watched this dynasty over the last 18 years. So, but even still, I mean, that game, I thought it was over. I did not see them coming back against that team, which is the really, best defense in the league. But so in the fourth quarter, and then being with Tom afterwards in the car, and then, there's stuff that's not even in there. Like, when I was at home, like, Tom was kind of he was in disbelief, like, that they pulled this off. And, you get the sense with him, like, he's like almost this larger than life mythical figure. They always come through. Tom always pulls it off. And there was a humility to him sitting in his kitchen at midnight after that game where he was like, I can't even explain it anymore. I mean, we did it without Gronk. Like, how does that happen?
What about before the AFC Championship game? Because you guys in the episode, if people haven't watched it, they should watch it. It's the first time I've ever seen, I think it's the first time the world's seen, the cut on his hand. You grew up in Massachusetts. You're a Patriots fan. You mentioned you're friends with Tom Brady. You're also making this movie, or this documentary. The first time you see the cut on his hand, and you know when the AFC Championship game is coming up, what's going through your mind? And also, what do you think in real time? What was Brady saying? What was going through his mind before the game, right after the injury happens?
Well, he FaceTimed me. I think it was like it happened in practice on a Wednesday maybe or Tuesday. And he FaceTimed that night because, you know, we are constantly in communication. We knew we were going to do this that week. I was going to come that weekend and do it. And he was down in the dumps. He felt, you know, like he told Alex Guerrero, his trainer, he's like, I wasn't supposed to end this way. And he really thought, but then I think, you know, Tom's a creature of habit, and he started going through his process, and every day it started getting better. And going into, I was with him on Saturday, and he was getting acupuncture, and he just sort of follows, you know, his treatment routine. And by Sunday, he felt confident, like, I think I can do this, you know, and it was great to sort of see him, and he builds that confidence. It's, again, he's not this guy who just like thinks he's going to win all the time. It's a culmination and going through his routine, and I mean that's what the Patriots have created, a culture that just do your job and follow your process.
You spent so much time with him, and we saw it in the car, in his house, in these really intimate moments where the public never get a chance, we really rarely get a chance to see. But we're also in this internet age where we could look up everything we want to know about an athlete. Everything's on Wikipedia at this point. Over the course of the weeks and months that you spent really closely with him, tell us something that we really didn't get a chance to see, something that may have surprised you that you didn't know about, either how he trains or how he treats people or whatever it is that you thought really, really changed in your opinion.
His ability to sort of people talk about compartmentalizing, but his is like moment to moment. Like I would be with him, or I would be watching a game, being at the stadium. They would have this amazing comeback or a loss, and then an hour later, he's in the car with his kids. His kids come to all his games, and, you know, he's trying to sort of, he's a dad. He's like, you know, trying to sync his phone with the cars so he can play Moana sing-alongs because his 4-year-old is impatient in the back of the car in a traffic jam. And Tom's ability to, from this moment to being on the field with his players, rallying the guys, you know, being a leader, to then being a dad. His wife is, you know, a bigger, higher profile than him. She's busy. So they're juggling just all the different things going on in his life makes those accomplishments on the field that much more admirable. I mean, somewhat unbelievable how he's able to maneuver
through that,
hour to hour.
He says in this, in a moment of supreme honesty, and that I really appreciated, yeah, I thought we were going to win. Super Bowl. You get the ball back down 5-2-20. We know how this story is supposed to end. We also know for you, like as a filmmaker, the ending ended up being, I thought it was brilliantly done, but it would have been like the perfect story arc. Like come back in the final moments to win a championship. What we saw Tom a week, you guys filmed this when? That
interview was about 5 days.
Okay,
after.
so 5 days after.
Yeah.
What is he like? As close to as you saw him after the game, whether it was the next day or that day, what's he like in that moment?
He calls it a crash landing, you know, and it's literally, no matter when it ends, it ends. It's over. You can't go back. And, you know, the guys, like, go their separate ways, and all that chemistry and camaraderie you've built over the course of the season, and a loss, especially, a loss in the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, everyone wants to get out of there. And so he was sort of lost, you know, and you could see it. Even 5 days later, he was physically there with his kids. He's helping them put on their mittens and get off to school. But mentally, you could tell, like, he was still sort of replaying moments in his head.
Right. You can't do anything on Tom Brady in New England without the cooperation of New England. So first question is, how was that experience working with New England and their personnel? And secondly, might be the most important question, with Alex Guerrero. His relationship with Tom, how important is that to him?
Well, so on the first part, you know, the Patriots were great. You know, they issued us credentials. I mean, I would first say the vast majority of the stuff was filmed over the off-season. A lot of his off-season training, traveling, doing stuff with his family. And then the stuff during the season was really mostly in his home. The Patriots were great in terms of issuing credentials, so I could get to and from games and, you know, come in with him, leave with him, all of that sort of stuff. But I'm also, and, you know, the only person more sensitive, I think, than than me to the Patriot way is Tom. And so there was no going into locker rooms, meeting rooms, doing any of that.
No,
I thought that.
Yeah.
During the practice, you weren't there during the week, during practice, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, they have a culture, and that's been part of their success. Tom's sensitive to that. I'm sensitive to that. And this was really more about his personal life anyway, and how he manages that in order to perform on the field. So that was, you know, the first part. And then, you know, your second question, which was...
About Alex Guerrero.
Oh, Alex, look, there's nobody more important. I mean, honestly, and, you know, Tom, partly it's just the physical, you know, regiment that he goes through with Alex that they've sort of perfected. But it's also like, I think Alex is a mentor to him. You know, Alex is somebody who he really trusts and he talks to a lot because, you know, those pliability sessions are an hour and a half long.
Yes.
So there's a lot of just like sort of mental and emotional, I used to joke with them, I'm like, it's like mental pliability and emotional pliability, even spiritual pliability. Because I think that's where Tom is. It's the physical stuff. He can do it. I think he could play till he was 45 if he wanted to. Do you want to do it over and over? I'm sure you know.
Can you sacrifice?
Yeah. I mean, I'm friends with Michael Strahan, works with us, and Michael says at the end of his career, it wasn't physical. It was just, I'm over it. I don't want to do it anymore.
So then obviously we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you, at any point, did he give you any idea of realistically where his head and his body were as to what he's got left, what he could do, what he wants to do realistically?
I mean, I think that last part is he needs to find that, quote, conviction this offseason. And I think for all the I'll play 4 or 5 more seasons, it's a season-to-season thing right now with him. So he's got to figure it out this offseason to be back on the field. And then I don't know that he thinks, frankly, beyond that right now. And I mean, this is just me, not Tom. I would be surprised if 4 or 5 more years. I mean, I don't know. He's accomplished everything he needs to do. And at this point, I think there's still something driving him. He still wants to win. He still sees with this team, with this coach.
Yeah, I think with you being with him, the intensity for which he has to go through, I think it's hard for you to understand why would such an accomplished person continue to do this. But in the documentary, it's called Tom versus Time. I believe Tom has won. Who do you think has won or is going to win this battle?
Well, who's it? Charles Barkley that said, you know, Father Time is undefeated?
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff Charles Barkley can't
Look, eventually Time always wins, but I think, you know, if anybody is sort of, you know, holding his own against Time, it's Tom, you know, and he's figured out a formula to extend it as long as he can. So I think he will, as long as he wants to. But I think that's the thing, mentally, emotionally, how long does he want to do it?
It's called Tom versus Time. It is on Facebook. You all have access to it. Gotham, thank you so much for being with us. Really, really great work.
And if you've watched it, watch Cody's one with Gotham. Muse. It's really great. You do great work.
Thank you very much.
Take a break. Back after this.